The GERD has raised questions about water security and created new tensions among countries in the Nile River basin. In this video, we'll look at the exact location of the dam, the importance of the Nile River, the countries it flows through, how those nations could be affected, the wider geopolitical issues, Egypt's key role in the dispute, and the many challenges Ethiopia faced in completing this project. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is strategically located on the Blue Nile River in western Ethiopia, specifically in the Benishangul-Gumuz region, about 30 kilometers east of the Sudanese border. This site was chosen for its deep gorges and high water flow, making it ideal for a large-scale hydroelectric project. The dam is a gravity-type structure, standing 145 meters tall and stretching 1.8 kilometers wide, with a reservoir capable of holding up to 74 billion cubic meters of water. Construction began in 2011, and the reservoir has been filled in phases, with the fifth and final filling completed in recent months. The total cost of Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is estimated at around 4.8 to 5 billion US dollars. The project was financed largely through Ethiopia's own resources and public contributions, such as the sale of government bonds and salary deductions, because foreign banks and institutions refused to provide funding due to pressure from Egypt. Its location on the Blue Nile is particularly important because this tributary contributes about 85% of the Nile's total water volume during the rainy season, feeding into the main Nile downstream. This positioning not only harnesses Ethiopia's abundant hydropower potential, but also gives the country control over a significant share of the Nile's flow, with effects that extend far beyond its borders. To understand why the GERD is so controversial, we first need to see how important the Nile River really is. Often called the father of African rivers, the Nile is the longest river in the world, stretching about 6,650 kilometers from its sources all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Its importance goes back thousands of years. Ancient civilizations, especially in Egypt, grew along its banks, using its yearly floods to enrich the soil and grow crops that fed entire empires. Even today, the Nile is a lifeline for more than 300 million people across Northeast Africa. It provides drinking water, irrigation for farming, hydroelectric power, transportation, and fisheries. In dry regions where rainfall is very limited, the river supports nearly 40% of Africa's population and allows the growth of crops like wheat, cotton, and rice. It also supports ecosystems, wetlands, and wildlife, while playing a major role in industries and tourism. Culturally, the Nile has always symbolized life and fertility. Without it, much of the region would risk desertification, hunger, and economic decline. This makes the Nile both a shared blessing and a source of tension among the nations that depend on it. The Nile's journey is long and remarkable, passing through many landscapes and countries. It has two main branches, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The White Nile begins at Lake Victoria, the world's largest tropical lake, which touches Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. From there, it flows north through Uganda and into South Sudan, where it spreads across massive swamps like the Sud. The Blue Nile starts at Lake Tana in the highlands of Ethiopia, rushing through steep valleys and carrying heavy sediment that gives the river its blue-brown color. These two branches meet near Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, to form the main Nile River. From there, it flows through the deserts of Sudan, past ancient Nubian sites, and then into Egypt. In Egypt, the Nile runs by famous landmarks like the pyramids and the Valley of the Kings, before splitting into a fertile delta and emptying into the Mediterranean Sea. The impacts of the GERD on Nile countries are mixed, bringing both benefits and risks. For Ethiopia, the dam is a major advantage. It will generate clean electricity, helping rural areas get power, reducing poverty, and supporting factories and industries. Ethiopia even hopes to sell electricity to nearby countries like Sudan and Kenya. The dam also helps control floods during heavy rains, protecting both Ethiopia and Sudan from disasters. Other upstream nations such as Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which feed into the White Nile, may not be directly affected but could benefit from more regional stability and energy trade. South Sudan, which depends on the White Nile, might not see big changes, but steadier water flows could improve navigation. Sudan, located in the middle, may benefit the most with more stable irrigation water, reduced flooding, and cheaper power from Ethiopia. However, during the years when the dam was being filled, water shortages hurt Sudan's own reservoirs and hydropower. Eritrea, with little connection to the Nile, will feel almost no impact. Egypt, at the far end of the river, faces the greatest risks. Experts warn that during droughts, Egypt could lose 20 to 30% of its water supply, threatening farming, jobs, and food security. Since 97% of Egypt's water comes from the Nile, any shortage could cause serious economic and social problems in a country of over 100 million people. Geopolitically, the GERD has changed the balance of power in the Nile Basin, directly challenging old colonial-era treaties that gave most water rights to Egypt and Sudan. For Ethiopia, the dam is more than just a project. It shows the country's rise as a regional power and its right to control its own resources. This has also encouraged other upstream countries to think about building similar dams. At the same time, tensions have grown, with some leaders warning of possible water wars. Talks between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt have repeatedly failed, and the issue has even been raised at the UN Security Council. The GERD also brings attention to the larger debate about fair water sharing under the Nile Basin Initiative, which could either encourage cooperation or fuel more conflict. External powers have also stepped in. The US, under President Trump, tried to mediate but largely supported Egypt, while China provided funding for parts of the project, making it part of the wider global power competition. Climate change adds more pressure, as unpredictable rainfall makes steady river flows even more important, and this could lead to new alliances or rivalries among African nations. Egypt's role in the GERD issue is central and often confrontational. As the traditional power on the Nile, Egypt depends on about 55.5 billion cubic meters of water every year under the 1959 Water Sharing Agreement. Because of this, Cairo sees the GERD as a serious threat to its survival. Egypt strongly opposed the dam's inauguration and continues to demand a legally binding deal with Ethiopia on how the dam is filled and operated to stop Ethiopia from having full control over the river. To push its case, Egypt has turned to international forums, strengthened military ties with Sudan, and at times even hinted at the use of force, though for now it mainly relies on diplomacy. Cairo also runs media campaigns framing the dam as a major security risk. At the same time, inside Egypt, the government is investing in new solutions like desalination plants and water-saving projects to reduce the possible impact of water shortages. The GERD's journey was fraught with challenges. Funding was a major hurdle. Initially estimated at $4.8 billion, costs ballooned to $5 billion, met through domestic bonds, crowdfunding, and loans, as international lenders shied away due to geopolitical risks. Construction delays stemmed from technical issues, like turbine installations and concrete pouring in a remote, rugged area with poor infrastructure. Political instability in Ethiopia, including civil conflicts, disrupted timelines. Geopolitically, Egypt and Sudan's objections led to stalled negotiations and threats of sanctions. Environmental concerns, such as reservoir evaporation and downstream sedimentation loss, added scrutiny. Despite these, Ethiopia's determination prevailed, turning the dam into a national pride symbol. In conclusion, the GERD's inauguration on September 9, 2025, is a milestone for Ethiopia but a flashpoint for the Nile Basin. It underscores the need for collaborative water management amid climate pressures. As the Nile continues to sustain life across 11 nations, the dam's legacy will depend on whether it fosters shared prosperity or deepens divides. What do you think? Will diplomacy win, or are conflicts inevitable? Be sure to mention in the comments whether you think this dam will truly benefit Ethiopia in the long run, or if Egypt might take some action against it in the future. Don't forget to share your opinion.